today I thought I'd take a minute to go ahead and talk to you a little bit about how they derived the quadratic formula using the standard form of the quadratic equation, which is ax squared plus bx plus c. And remember, our quadratic formula says that when we'll solve for x, we get x is equal to a negative b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. But before we did, I thought I would just review a more complex problem where we wanted to complete the square. And so I'm going to do one where I know I'm going to end up with a radical. And so what I want to do first, if you remember when we complete the square, we moved all the constants to the other side, leaving us the first two terms, the x squared term and the bx term. So I'm left with 2x squared plus 7x. I'm going to go ahead and leave a little room, and then I'm going to add 3 to both sides. So I'm just going to have the 3 here. Next, I need to go ahead and factor out my coefficient in front of my x squared, which is in this case 2. So by doing that, I get x squared, let's go 2 times x squared plus 7 over 2 times x, and then I'm going to end up with equaling 3, because I haven't done anything more, I haven't completed the square. Now, to find out what I need to add to both sides of my equation, what I want to do is I want to take my middle term, okay, which is 7 over 2. I'm going to half it, or I'm going to multiply it, divide it by 2, or I'm going to use a half. So let's go ahead, since it's a fraction, I'm just going to multiply it times 2. And then I'm going to end up with 7 over 4, and then I have to square it. So let me go to put a square on both of those. So in order to find what I'm adding, I'm going to have to take middle term divided by 2, or taking it times a half, and then squaring it. So I'm left with then 49 over 4 times 4, which is going to be 16. Now, normally, a lot of times you then just put 49 over 16 here, but remember we have to multiply it times 2 because it still has a value that's twice as high. So when I multiply 49 over 16 times 2, basically the 2 goes into 16 8 times, and so I'm going to change this to 49 over 8. And that is just 49 over 16 times 2, and then we can add. Now I'm going to be able to keep my equations balanced. My next step then is going to be to go ahead and complete the square here, keeping my 2. I'm going to take care of it in just a second, but I'm going to end up with x. Remember, since it's a positive number here, then I'm going to have plus, and then this number, when I complete the square, will always be the square root of 49 over 16, or whatever the middle term divided by 2. So when I do that, if I take the square root of 49 over 16, I'm going to get 7 over 4. And then I have expression squared. Now, what they're saying is that 7 over 4 plus 7 over 4 would be then 7 over 2. And that makes sense because you would have then 7 fourths plus 7 fourths would be 14 fourths. And then dividing it, taking the 2 out of both of them, you're going to go back to the 7 halves. All right, I'm also going to change my 3. I'm going to add it to 49 over 8. So if you have a calculator that doesn't just do fractions easy, remember all I'm going to do is change my whole number to 8 times 3, which is 24 over 8. That's the same as 3. And so then I will multiply or add the 24 over 8 plus 49 over 8, and that's going to give me then 73 over 8. Now, before I square it, the rule is that I need to divide any numbers that's multiplied times that expression first. So what I need to do is I need to divide both sides by 2 or multiply it times half. So if I multiply this by half, that cancels out. I like to do the multiplies to half because I have a fraction on this side. Then I'm going to end up with x plus 7 over 4 expression squared is equal to 73 over 16. Now I can go ahead and take the square root of both sides. So when I take the square root of both sides, then I'm going to end up with, remember it's always plus or minus, and if you have the square root of 73, that's as simplified as it's going to get, but the square root of 16 is just going to be then 4. And then I'm left with x plus 7 over 4 without any expression squared. And my next step will be to move this to the other side, so I'm going to subtract it from both sides. And so I have x is equal to a minus 7 over 4 plus or minus the square root of 73 over 4. And since they're both fractions of 4, that means I'm just going to go minus 7 plus or minus the square root of 73 all over 4. Now if I had to do this one with a quadratic formula, I would start off the same way. So I'm going to start with a minus b, so it's going to be a minus 7 plus or minus the square root of b squared, which is going to be 49, minus 4 times a, which is going to be 2, times c, which is going to be a negative 3, all over 2 times a, which is 2. And so I'm left then inside here, if I take 49 minus 4 times 2 times negative 3, then that's going to end up being the square root of 73. And so I get, magically, the same answer all over 4. Notice they're the same. So when I do the quadratic formula, though, I'm going to do the same process. So I'm going to start off with ax squared plus bx plus c equals 0. I'm going to move my c to the other side, just like I did the 3. So I have ax squared plus bx, and then equals a negative c. Now I'm going to go ahead and factor out an a because that's my coefficient in front of my x squared. So if I factor the a out, then I'm left with x squared plus b over a times x, and then this is where I'm going to leave a little room like I did before, is equal to a negative c. Now remember we took the middle term, we'd have b over a, and we divided it by 2 or multiplied it times a half. So I'm just going to go ahead and go plus times 1/2, and then I'm going to also go squared because that's what's going to go with my completing the square. So I have then b over 2a expression squared. So what I need to add then is going to be b squared over 4a squared. Now I have to add the same thing on this side, but remember I also have to multiply it times my a. And so when I multiply, if I come over to this side, let me just go b squared over 4a squared, but I'm going to take it times a, then one of my a's cancels out on the bottom. So really what I need to multiply is b squared over 4a. And now I'm going to go ahead and simplify a little bit. So I have a times, I'm going to complete the square. So remember it was the I know I have x, and I know I'm going to have a plus because I start off with a plus. And what I'm adding is going to be the square root of this one, or the middle term divided by 2. So either way, it's going to be b over 2a expression squared. And then I'm going to simplify this a little bit. If I go ahead and put, I have a minus c, but my denominator is 4a. So that means if I have a denominator of 4a, that means I have to multiply both the top and the bottom times 4a. Then plus b squared over 4a. Now I can put those all, I have the same denominator of 4a, so I'm going to go ahead and go 4a. I'll go ahead and write it this way first. So if I have negative c times 4 times a, that's a minus 4 c plus b squared. And notice I can switch these around because I can add in any order, So that's where it's starting to really come together and look like my quadratic formula. So I have b squared minus 4ac all over 4a by just switching those around. Now remember, I still have this coming down, and I need to go ahead and x plus b over 2a expression squared. I need to get rid of my coefficient that I pulled out. So that means I need to divide both sides by a, or multiply it times 1 over a. So if I do this, I'm going to go times 1 over a. That's going to get rid of this, leaving me with just x plus b over 2a expression squared. And on the bottom now, or to the right-hand side, I have b squared minus 4ac all over 4a squared. Now the next step is I'm going to take the square root of both sides. And I'm left then with on the left-hand side just x plus b over 2a But on the right, I can't, on the top, I'm just going to have to leave it as b squared minus 4ac. So I have the square root of b squared minus 4ac. Remember, you cannot square the b at this point because you're subtracting the 4ac from it. Those are like, they glue them together. But we also, because we took this expression and squared it, we have to remember both plus and minus on my radical. But then when I take the square root of 4a squared, that is just going to be 2a. Square root of 4 is 2, and the square root of a squared would be a. And then the last step is I'm going to move my b over 2a over. So x is going to equal a minus b over 2a plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac all over 2a. And because they're both over 2a, I'm just adding my fractions. I just put them all over 2a, and that's where I'm going to get a minus b plus or minus the square root of b squared minus 4ac. So the quadratic formula is actually found by completing the square of my standard form ax squared plus bx plus c. I hope this was fun.